The zombie apocalypse in Hyosun High School didn't just happen because of a science experiment gone wrong. It happened because of a chain reaction of terrible decisions. And while some students died fighting bravely against the infected, others died for absolutely no reason at all. From panic-induced mistakes to straight-up bad writing, let's break down exactly how the 8 most avoidable deaths in All of Us Are Dead happened, and how these preventable tragedies shaped the entire course of the survival story. When most people think of the deaths in this show, they remember the heroic sacrifices. They remember Cheong-san fighting Gui-nam in the elevator shaft. But what most viewers don't realize is that nearly half the cast could have survived if they had just stopped making impulsive, irrational choices. The virus might have been the weapon, but human stupidity was the trigger. Let's start with the most frustrating chain reaction of them all. Number 8, Han Gyeong-soo. This wasn't just an avoidable death, it was straight-up murder disguised as an accident. Gyeong-soo was one of the most capable fighters in the group. He was loyal, brave, and doing everything right. But his death had nothing to do with zombies overpowering him. It had everything to do with Lee Na-yeon's elitist complex. Na-yeon hated Gyeong-soo because he was poor, that's it. That was her entire motivation. During an argument, Gyeong-soo got a scratch on his hand. It wasn't a zombie bite, just a regular scratch. But Na-yeon, in a moment of pure spite, deliberately wiped zombie blood on a handkerchief and applied it to his open wound. She infected him on purpose. If the group had just kicked Na-yeon out earlier, or if Gyeong-soo had just washed his own hands, he would have survived the entire season. His death broke the group's morale and proved that the real monsters were already inside the room. Number 7, the girl who hung herself in Episode 5. This death is often overlooked, but it's one of the most tragic and preventable moments in the series. While the main group was fighting for their lives, another student was dealing with a completely different kind of horror. She had been bullied and assaulted before the outbreak, and the trauma finally broke her. She committed suicide by hanging herself from a school window. This death was entirely avoidable if the school administration had actually done their jobs before the apocalypse started. The bullying culture at Hyosun High was the root cause of everything, including the virus itself. Her death was a grim reminder that the system failed these kids long before the zombies showed up. Number 6, Shin Hyung-seo. If you want to talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time, look no further than Hyung-seo. He was a freshman, terrified, hiding under a table in the kitchen with Yoon Gui-nam and another girl. They were safe. They were hidden. But then Gui-nam decided the girl was making too much noise. He pushed her directly into the zombies. Without hesitation, she was devoured instantly. Hyung-seo watched this happen. He watched his classmate get murdered by another student right in front of him. Then Gui-nam turned to him and demanded that he crawl out and grab a knife. Hyung-seo refused. He was paralyzed by fear. He had just witnessed a murder. He wasn't going to leave his hiding spot. But Gui-nam didn't care about his trauma or his terror. He physically pushed Hyung-seo out from under the table, directly into the path of the waiting zombies. Hyung-seo tried desperately to crawl back to safety, but it was too late. The zombies attacked him. He got bitten. He transformed. And when his zombified body later attacked Gui-nam in a moment of irony, Gui-nam simply stabbed him in the throat with a kitchen knife, killing him for the second time. His death was completely avoidable. If Gui-nam had just let him stay hidden, or if Hyung-seo had been brave enough to grab the knife, he would have lived. But his death established Gui-nam as the true villain of the series, a sociopath who used the apocalypse as an excuse to commit murder without consequence. Number 5, Jang Do-min, another victim of Gui-nam's absolute cruelty. Do-min was just trying to survive in the library. He was paranoid, sure, but he wasn't a threat to anyone. When Gui-nam was chasing Cheong-san through the library to destroy the phone that had evidence of him murdering the principal, Do-min just happened to be in the way. Gui-nam didn't try to sneak past him. He didn't tell him to run. He literally pushed Do-min off a bookshelf directly into a horde of zombies just to create a distraction. Do-min was devoured instantly. It was a senseless, avoidable death that only happened because Guinam valued his own reputation over human life. This moment proved that Guinam was far more dangerous than any mindless infected. Number 4, Lee Chung-san's mother. This one hurts to talk about because it was driven by pure love but executed with pure foolishness. When the outbreak started, Chung-san's mother was safe at her restaurant. She was outside the quarantine zone. She could have stayed put. She could have waited for the military. Instead, she decided to ride a scooter straight into ground zero, unarmed. No weapons, no armor, just a mother's desperation. When she finally reached the school, she saw Gyeong-soo, who was already fully turned into a zombie. Instead of running, she tried to talk to him. She stood there, completely exposed, trying to reason with a flesh-eating monster. She was immediately swarmed and bitten. Her death was entirely preventable if she had just stayed at the restaurant. And the worst part? Her death completely broke Cheong-san when he eventually saw her zombified body wandering the school grounds. Number 3, Lee Byung-chan, the science teacher who started it all. Byung-chan created the Jonas virus to make his bullied son stronger. He is the architect of the apocalypse. But his death in episode 4 was surprisingly avoidable. He was being escorted by Detective Song Jae-ik. They were actually making progress. But when a horde of zombies attacked, Byung-chan decided to sacrifice himself to let Jae-ik escape. He let himself get bitten by a zombified police officer. Now, on the surface, this looks heroic, but logically, it was completely unnecessary. They both could have kept running. Byung-chan had the most knowledge about the virus. He was the only one who might have been able to develop a cure or provide crucial information to the military. By sacrificing himself so early, he doomed thousands of other people. His guilt drove him to an avoidable death that ultimately made the situation infinitely worse. Number 2, Yoon Isak, Onjo's best friend. This death happened so early in episode 2, and it set the tone for how ruthless the show would be. But looking back, it was incredibly preventable. The group was scrambling to secure the classroom. Isak was right there with them. But in the chaos, she got bitten on the leg. The tragic part is how it happened. They were trying to hold the door, and there was a brief moment of hesitation, a moment where panic overrode logic. If the group had coordinated just a second faster, or if Isak had stayed away from the immediate danger zone near the windows, she wouldn't have been bitten. Her death forced Onjo to face the reality of the apocalypse immediately. When Cheong-san finally had to push zombified Isak out the window to save Onjo, it severed Onjo's last tie to her normal life. And finally, number 1, Nam Soju, Onjo's father. This is arguably the most frustrating, heavily criticized, and completely avoidable death in the entire series. Soju was a trained firefighter. He spent the entire season surviving impossible odds. He escaped a military quarantine camp. He fought his way through a city filled with zombies. He swam through flooded areas. He finally miraculously reunited with his daughter and her friends at the construction site. He saved them, he opened the door to their escape route, and then he just stopped. The group was running toward the exit. The zombies were closing in. Soju had plenty of time to run with them. He had flares. He had the physical stamina, but instead of running through the door with his daughter, he decided to lock them out and stay behind. He threw flares to distract the zombies and let himself get swarmed. Why? There was absolutely no logical reason for him to stay behind. The zombies were distracted by the flares anyway. He could have thrown the flares and ran. He could have escaped with Onjo, but the writers needed a tragic emotional beat, so they forced a highly trained survival expert to commit suicide for no reason. His death wasn't just avoidable, it defied all logic. It left Onjo an orphan right at the finish line. Looking back, almost every major tragedy in All of Us Are Dead wasn't caused by the zombies being too fast or too strong. It was caused by human error. Nayeon's spite killed Gyeong-soo. Guinam's cruelty killed Hyung-seo, and Do-min, a mother's blind panic, killed Cheong-san's mom. And bad decision-making killed Onjo's father. If these characters had just communicated better, controlled their emotions, or simply kept running when the exit was right in front of them, the survivor count would have been twice as high. The Jonas virus might have destroyed Hyosun High, but it was the avoidable human mistakes that truly left them all dead. Now hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, Guinam is probably going to push you off a bookshelf just for standing in his way. And honestly, none of us want to deal with that guy